నమస్తే. తెలుగు ప్రజల మనస్సాక్షి సాక్షి టీవీ. I am Swarna. Welcome to Sakshi TV special immigration show with attorney Prashanthi Reddy from the law firm of Prashanthi Reddy PLLC. Please note down that Sakshi TV has now 3 immigration shows every week on Tuesday at 3 p.m. EST with attorney Ms. Sheila Murthy, Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. EST with attorney Ms. Prashanthi Reddy, and on Friday 6 p.m. EST with Banu Ilindra. Please tune in and ask questions. If you have any queries regarding immigration, please feel free to call us. Our attorney would like to answer your questions. If you are an immigration attorney and would like to join us in our special shows, please email us at usa@sakshi.com or call us at 866-725-7441. Before we begin the show, please note down that the information provided in this show is not legal advice. It's for general information purpose only. Sakshi TV or its agents are not responsible for use of this information. If you need a specific legal advice, please contact attorney directly. Today, we are going to continue talking about and discussing about I-485 H1 EAD immigration updates. We have our attorney Prashanthi Reddy garu with us. Without any further delay, let's start our show by welcoming Prashanthi Reddy. Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Hello, Swarna. Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. And welcome to the show. So,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Prashanthi, how long does it take for I-485 to get approved?
Yes. Thanks for that question. Just before I answer, I just wanted to apologize for the late start because we had some technical issues, so we were delayed. Sorry about that again. I hope all of you are ready with your questions. So, with reference to your question, how long does it take for the 485 to be processed? So there are two things to keep in mind: the processing time that USCIS has, and also your visa availability. So there are two different things. So visa availability, unless your visa number is available, your green card number is available, even if your 485 is filed, it will continue to remain pending, or it will not get processed. So that could be a long wait depending on what the visa bulletin says every month. So if it reaches your date, then it will be processed. If it has not yet reached the date, then it will just be on hold. They will not process it. So that's one aspect of it to remember when thinking about processing, when thinking about how long the green card will take. Now the other question is processing time. Processing time is your visa number is available, but the time taken for USCIS to work on your case. That's another aspect of the processing time. Now that usually, of course, varies from time to time depending on what the backlog of USCIS is, but usually takes about 12 to 18 months, and it could be more if there is an interview scheduled for you. Then it depends on what the scheduled backlog is for the local office where your interview is supposed to be conducted. So then it will depend on that. So there could be a delay due to that. But in general, processing time is 12 to 18 months. Now, if there is some complication in your case, if there's an RFE or request for further evidence, then obviously the processing time might be more depending on how long you take to respond to your RFE. Usually they give about 80-85 days. If you use the additional time, there's also a grace period of 60 days after that. So if you use everything the additional time, but obviously processing time is going to become longer. Sometimes also what happens is the case might get denied. Then you have to file an appeal or a motion to reopen. That could affect the processing time because there is a different processing time for motion to reopen and for appeal. And that could be 6 to 8 months, sometimes a year, sometimes longer. So it really depends on which stage you're at, what the current processing times are for USCIS, and also if your priority date is available or not available.
Okay. So what happens when I-485 gets approved?
Once the 485 gets approved, that's good news. You have to congratulate yourself and your family members. But there is another step which is does not take away your benefit or anything like that. You have been given the benefit, you have been given the green card, but you have to have the actual green card has to be produced and mailed to you. So there is a production unit, USCIS production unit, where they actually print the green cards and send them to you. So that's the next step. Sometimes there could be a delay in the production of the card, but that doesn't mean that you are not a permanent resident. Once the 485 is approved, you're a permanent resident. But you need proof that you're a permanent resident, so therefore you need that card. So whoever needs to travel, please make sure that you do not travel without that proof. So if there is a delay in getting the actual card, for example, during COVID, the first half of COVID last year, USCIS was using independent contractors to produce these green cards and EAD cards. And there was a significant delay in producing those cards because they had just fired the contractors that they were using, and they did not hire new contractors because, COVID, they didn't get a chance to do that, and then COVID hit. So if that happens, or there's a delay due to some other reason, or maybe a card is sent to you, but it could get lost in the mail, whatever it might be, since you need proof of being a permanent resident, you can go to your local office and get your passport stamped with I-551 stamp. So that is also an alternative proof for your green card. So that's possible as well.
Okay. So viewers, before we go to next further questions and to know a lot of other things, please call Prashanthi Reddy Garu directly if you have any questions and would you like to talk to her directly. Her number is 212-354-1010, extension is 107, and her email address is prashanthi@reddysq.com. Okay, so Ms. Prashanthi, before we go to the further question, we have a caller, Vinay from Texas. Hi, Vinay. Okay, I think there is some technical difficulties, Ms. Prashanthi. So let's go back to our questions. So what happens after biometrics for I-485?
What happens after biometrics? So basically, after the biometrics process, so people often think that things go in order. So first there's this and there's that. So it's not necessary that there is a specific order, but in general, the first thing that happens is you get a receipt as proof that your case was filed. The second thing that happens is, yes, usually it is biometrics. Biometrics is nothing but where they capture your fingerprints and they take your photograph. That's biometrics. So that's usually the next thing that happens, because in order for them to process your 485, they have to take fingerprints, and they have to do, after taking the fingerprints, they then do the security check. There are two types of checks that happen. One is FBI check and the other is an immigration check. So an immigration check, they make sure that you have not violated any immigration laws previously. In the FBI check, they're checking national security issues. They're checking to see whether you've ever committed a crime. They're checking whatever databases they have to make sure that you have not, a liability. Okay, so if you have a criminal record, most probably, they may not give you the green card unless you're able to prove that you fall under one of the exceptions. So they do the background check, and then they do the criminal check after they capture the biometrics based on the fingerprints. That's how they do it. And also they do a name check. The name check is they check all parameters of your name, and they make sure that you are who you say you are. And they want to make sure that you have not used some other names. And if they find that another name has a criminal record, then they might check to see if it's the same person. They'll check the date of birth after that. So there are, a couple of things that are done there. Interesting story I had a few years ago. We went for a interview, green card interview, family based, and then ICE was there at the interview. ICE is the Customs Enforcement Office, and they called the wife aside, and they said that, oh, your name is so and so. We have a file for exactly the same name, and we see that you're in removal proceedings. And she was confused because she was never in removal proceedings, so she didn't really understand what was going on. And then later on, we found out that that was a different person by the same name at the same address, because that person was a tenant at that same building many years ago, and she had the exact same name as this person. So it was a coincidence, so too much of a coincidence. So the officer thought it was the same person. It took us a while to convince them that it's not the same person. So, that happens during name check. If there is, say, a person who has been out of status or is in removal proceedings or has a criminal record, if you have a common name, common first name, common last name, like a Patel or Reddy or Rao or something like that, and the first name is also matching, then it's possible that can happen. So yeah, so they do take the biometrics. First they send the receipt, then biometrics. They do a name check, and then if everything is clear, then they issue the other benefits which you get while your case is pending, which is advance parole and the employment authorization document, the EAD card, provided you have applied for it. And then finally, after the processing is done, they could send you a request for further evidence if they think that there's further documentation that is missing in your file. And after that, if everything is clear, the
Ms.
officer will
Prashanti,
request for a... Yes.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you. We have a caller, Vinay from Texas.
Okay. Let's hope he comes through. Oh, there you are, Vinay. Yes. How are you?
Yeah, I guess previously I guess there was some technical issue. I cannot talk. Hi, and I'm doing good. And my question only, I have my H1B in the past, and due to some terminations, I moved to H4 and applied for EAD both at a time. And later on, when the H4 case is pending, I got a new project, and I've made a change of status to H1. And after 6 months, I have got other projects. I've amended my H1 with one employer. So now my amendment was pending, and all of a sudden, when the biometrics was been waived off, my H4 and EAD both got approved at the same time. And my amendment on the new project is pending. So now I just want to understand, if once the amendment gets approved, so am I going to be back on H1B? Because my one H1B is approved after applying for H4. And after getting that H1B approved, I filed an amendment for a new project. And after filing the amendment for the new project, now my H4 and EAD both got approved all of a sudden.
Right. So, yes, it's, really messy to file so many cases at the same time. But I guess because of the processing time, with USCIS, we have no option. So people file multiple, 2, 3, 4 cases before the previous case gets approved. But luckily, USCIS has a rule which is called the last action rule. So whatever action you take last, which means in this case, whatever application you file last, that will be your status, especially if it is approved. So since you filed the H1, after you file the H4, the H1 is what your status is. So even though your H4 is approved, the H4 is no longer your status, because it is not about what gets approved later, it's about what gets filed later. So since the H1 was filed later, H1 is your status, and so right now you have a H1 approved and you have an amendment pending. That's your status right now.
Because I've heard about the last action rule, but is it last action rule on the approval or the last action rule on the what we apply? Because H4 has been applied.
That's why I just clarified. Yeah, that's why I just clarified. It's not last action rule on approval. It's last action rule action taken by you, not by USCIS. So what action you took last? So whatever case you filed last, that is your status.
Right, according to my case.
Sorry?
So according to my case, so now I'm on H1, even if the H4 and H4 already got
Correct.
approved,
Yes.
but I'm on H1 now. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, thanks, Prashanti.
Correct.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Miss Prashanti, we have Mr. Rao from New Jersey, our next caller.
Hi. My question is that my priority date is in January 10th, 2012. However, I'm planning to move an employer. What would be the consequences if we move now?
So, you didn't tell me what your status is right now. Are you as a pending 485? Is that, what is your status?
No. I'm on H1B with I-140 approved, waiting for the dates.
So nobody can predict. So EB2 or EB3? What is it?
I'm on EB2. My priority date is January 10th, 2012. As you know that as per the filing dates, I'm 40 days away, and as per the final action dates, I'm 7 months away.
So I wouldn't risk. I would wait until October before you decide whether to move or to stick to the same employer. Because in October, we'll have a clearer picture of where we stand. So the filing action, the dates of filing will most probably be usable in October, as they are every year. USCIS will open up dates for filing. You're not yet current where dates for filing are concerned, but it might most probably will get current by October for you. And final action date also, you're not too far off. So my suggestion would be to wait until October before you make any moves. Because if you move now and your date becomes current in October, there's not enough time for you to file a labor and get an I-140 approved, or even get a labor approved by October. Because a labor usually takes 6 to 8 months to get approved. And before that, the processing, placing the ad, etc. will take 3 months. There's no time to move right now. I would suggest moving, making a decision after October.
Yeah, that makes sense. That we'll get more clarity around that. But what I'm trying to understand is that in case, if I move now, what would be the consequences that I may have to face?
Very simple consequences. You will not be able to file a 485.
Yeah, but once I move now and then apply for the labor, right? I
just finished telling you how long the labor takes, right? I told you it will take about a year.
Okay.
So if you file now, October is not a year away. October is a few months away, right? So the labor will not be approved by then. So you will lose your opportunity to be able to file a 485. That's the consequence.
Okay, so I will lose that opportunity?
Correct.
Okay.
Ms. Prashanti,
Good luck.
We have another caller, Mr. Ravi from Virginia.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Prashanti. Yeah, hi. My question is regarding I-539 for my parents. They were here last year on visit visa on August, and it ended in January. So I filed in first extension in by the end of January. But when I filed only till July. I put the end date I mean instead of asking for 6 months, I just said I want 5 months, and I did specify the date, and I booked the ticket, everything. So now I know because usually they are allowed to stay 6 months. So should I file another extension, or is it okay if I change the flight ticket and because they just want to leave 2 weeks later? So can I just change the flight ticket and send them, or do I need to file another extension?
You have to unfortunately file another extension because you do not want them to be out of status even for a day. Because USCIS considers even a day of out of status to be out of status. So next time when they're coming in, if they're out of status for a week, 2 weeks, or even a day, USCIS can refuse them entry at the port of entry, EBP can refuse them entry. So you don't want to do that. That's too much of a risk. Unless they never plan to come back again. That's a different story. But if they have plans to travel back and forth, then they should not be out of status even for a day.
Oh, okay.
And
I mean, when I filed the extension, the USCIS, the only action that was taken was like fingerprints were taken. There is no other update on the case. So
that is
USCIS
not
did
our
not.
concern. That is not our
Okay.
concern. Our concern is to file it on time and leave before the
Okay.
time that we have asked on the I-129 on the I-539 petition.
Oh, okay. Got you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'll plan to file another extension if they plan to stay for 2 more weeks.
And make
Thank
sure
you,
that,
Prashant.
and you have to be aware that they cannot stay more than 1 year.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
In the
The
year.
second extension, since it's August, like, I mean, they won't stay, like, they're planning to leave in
Yeah,
July.
so they can get until August.
Oh.
You can ask until August.
So the next extension also, I should ask only until August, not like beyond, not I can
Correct.
just ask for 6 months.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Got you. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
I do have another question for like H1B, so is it okay?
Varna, do we have other callers or is it okay?
No, we can go ahead. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so basically I'm on H1B and like my previous employer, he filed my green card on EB2 category. So, and the date is like June 23rd, 2011. And I think EB2 just moved to like June 1st, 2011. But I moved to a different employer. So he said like he's going to file in EB3. They haven't started the process. They are going to start the process now. I mean, do you recommend like to start the process? Because in EB3, the dates are current. So do you recommend to start the process now or like do you just wait? Do you anticipate that it's going to move for EB2 in August?
It's hard to say, but you've left your old employer, so you no longer have, unless you plan to go back to your old employer. Now you left your old employer, you only have new employer. A new employer has not filed a labor certificate yet, right? Correct?
Started anything yet?
I'm sorry?
But the old employer, he filed the new employer hasn't started any process yet. But the old employer,
Right. So,
he filed the green card for future employment, right? So he said he would be able to, like, once the date is current, he can file the 485.
So you have the option of going back to the old employer, right?
Yes, yeah, I have the option of going back to him.
So go ahead and start your labor cert process, and then wait for October, September, and see what happens with the dates. If the dates become current with your old employer, you have to go ahead and join them because you don't know what will happen with EB2 final action dates and for how long they'll be current and when they'll retrogress. Because if you have something in hand, you don't wait for something that you don't have, right? In hope that you'll get it.
Exactly.
Whatever you have in hand, you have to make use of it. What you have in hand right now is a EB3 I-140 approval, so you have to make use of it if you can in October.
No, I don't have EB3 approval. I have EB2 I-140 approval.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. EB2 I-140 approval. So if you're able to make use of that.
Because in your last caller, you said like now the labor processing time is 1 year, right? So the new employer, if he files, like he has to file the labor. And once the labor approved, then only I can port my both 140
so
and...
you're taking a big chance. Yeah, you're taking a big risk because you don't, most probably after 1 year, you don't know what the dates will be. So if you completely ignore your opportunity now, you might be left with nothing. So take what you have now, depend based on your October dates. If the date becomes current for you, with the present I-140, you shouldn't hesitate to file the 485.
Oh, yeah. I think our call got cut. So let's get back to our questions, Ms. Prashanti. So does biometrics means approval?
Biometrics, as we discussed earlier, simply means capturing of, your information. So they capture your fingerprints, they take a photograph, they do a name check, they do criminal background check, immigration check. So that's what biometrics is. That's just one step in the process. Without the biometrics, without all that being approved, obviously your green card cannot be approved, but that's not the only criteria. There's other criteria, other things that they look at also. So to answer your question, simply biometrics being taken doesn't mean anything. It's just one step in the process.
Okay. Ms. Prashanti, we have a caller, Mr. Srinivas from Pennsylvania.
Hi. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Hi, madam. I have a couple of questions. I have applied my 485 in last October, and I've done my biometrics in the month of April, and my dates are going to be current next month under EB2 category. I have a question on 485J. Nowadays, some people are getting 485J receipts and as well as approvals. What is that exactly? Some people are getting and some people are not getting. So what is that? Would you explain me on that?
Right. The 485J is, you know what the J is used for, right? It's simply to either reiterate the offer of employment from your employer, or in some cases it could be to a new offer of employment when you're changing employers under AC21. So in the past, there was no such form such as 485J. It was just an employment letter. So instead of that employment letter, now they have a more formalized method, which is the form 485J. So yes, you're right. We're getting receipts for some for the 485J. It's not a separate application, so I really don't know why they're sending receipts. But since it's a separate form, I guess they're obliged to send a receipt, even though there is no separate fee again for it. But just as we get a receipt for the 765 and the I-131, even though there is no separate fee for it, if you file together with the 485, I guess they're obliged to send receipts for the 485J also. But as you said, some are getting and some are not. So I would not give that too much importance. But of course, without the 485J being filed, you cannot get the green card. So in instances where people have not filed, again, they're not denying those cases, but they're simply sending an RFE asking for the 485J. In some cases, if there's a deficiency in the 485J also, they will send out a request for further evidence. And they'll send out that one page of the 485J and say, please fill it again because it's not filled properly. So that's what your 485J is. So I wouldn't put too much importance on the fact that you got a receipt or didn't get a receipt.
Okay. Because
as long as you sent it.
I've talked with... okay. I had a chat with a couple of times with Emma, but they're saying that, they didn't even get my 485J form. So I don't know, but I spoke with my attorney and he said we sent all the documents.
No, first of all, you can't, Emma will not know. So for those who don't know, Emma is an online help desk for USCIS.
I mean, with a live agent,
everybody who knows. Yeah. So you did the live thing, but, they will not be able to go into your documents and check. That would be level 2 or level 3. And you'd have to actually speak to an officer to know whether the 485J is there or not there. But either way, whatever the issue or misunderstanding is, even if it's not there, as I said, you'll get an RFE.
Okay. Okay. Generally, how long it takes to get a green card? After my days get current.
Well, it depends on the processing, really. It depends on what is remaining to process. For example, if there is an RFE, they have to first ensure that all the documents are submitted before they can actually request for a visa number. So the method that they follow is they look for completeness of the file. Once the file is complete, the biometrics are done, etc., etc., they will request a visa number, and then they'll reserve that visa number for you. So even if it gets backlogged, you have a visa number reserved, so your case will get approved. But as I was saying earlier, usual processing time is 12 to 18 months, but that can vary based on really their backlog, or based on whether there's an RFE, based on whether there's going to be an interview for you or not, and whether there's a backlog at the local office where they're interviewing you.
Ms. Prashanti, we have another caller, Mr. Sudhir.
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Sudhir.
Hi, Prashanti. Yeah.
Hi.
So I have approved I-140 from my previous employer, which is with the priority date June 2015. Last year I joined a new company, and they are currently in the process of starting the perm process. So the recruitment is over. It's about to file the perm application. So with all the news that I'm hearing, I'd like to know whether it is it possible to go back to the previous employer to ask if the dates are current to file for 485, and or should I stay with the current employer and just looking for idea? Yeah.
So a bird in hand is better than two birds in the bush, right? So you already have that I-140 approved, and October is not far away. Your labor cert will not get approved by October. So if your dates become current, you should be in a position, you have to situate yourself such that you're able to file your 485 in October. So you do have to, I think, start preparing for that by contacting your old employer, to find out whether they are willing to, sometimes when you leave, they will withdraw your I-140, in which case then they'll have to refile the I-140 and do the 485 simultaneously, and they might insist that you be on their payroll because, there's an ability to pay issue when you're refiling your I-140.
Okay.
So with reference to your new employer, you might be out of luck because there's not enough time to make use of a visa bulletin in October if the dates are in your favor.
So the previous employer, if they haven't still withdrawn the I-140, without joining them, can if I request them and they are willing to file, that can be still proceeded, right?
Well, again, there's an issue of intent, and I'm glad we're getting all these good questions because we were trying to cover them anyway in our Q&A today. So we're already covering them. But so you have to have the intent of working for the employer. If you're working for some other employer, and then this person is just filing the green card, there's going to be a question as to whether there was an intent to hire you in the first place because you left the company after having worked there. So you're not really showing a good intent there. So that question can come up anytime at the time of before your 485 is approved, or even after it's approved when you go for your citizenship interview. So not joining the employer and filing it, yes, theoretically it can be done, but these intent issues can come up for which you will not have then a remedy unless you actually join the employer and start working for them. Especially once you start getting an EAD, there is no reason why you shouldn't start working for the employer. And so USCIS often questions the applicants as to, okay, so you have an EAD, you can work for the employer, what's stopping you?
Thank you, Prashant.
You have to have a plausible explanation. So my suggestion to you is don't risk it, work for the employer. get the green card or do AC-21 after 6 months if there's some change in your circumstances. But for now, I think you should join the employer.
Ms. Prashanti, we have our next caller, Mr. Sudhakar from New Jersey.
Hi, ma'am. How are you doing today?
Hi, Sudhakar. Good, thanks.
Thank you. Ma'am, I have a question. See, my priority date is March 2015 and in EB3. So I'm hoping to, so what's your suggestion on this thing? First question, like whether I'm going to get my date for, at least for filing date for EAD. And next question is, I have my birth certificate available ready. Okay, but I have little problem in it, right? My first name has an extra character, wherein which I do not have here in my legal name in US, right? So in this scenario, what would be my next steps? How do I, do I have to correct my birth certificate? Mostly that will take a long time in India. So otherwise, if I do not have to do that, what is my next step? Can you please suggest on this?
What is the problem with your birth certificate with reference to your name?
I have an extra character in my name actually, wherein that doesn't.
Okay.
See
Okay.
my.
Right. So I don't think that they will correct your birth certificate because especially with COVID and everything, I don't think once it is to correct it, I believe is a very long process because now everything is entered electronically in India, and so to correct it, I believe it's a big process. So most probably you will not be able to get that corrected, but you can simply submit an affidavit along with the birth certificate from your parents, basically saying that there was a error in the name, and this person is the same as person A is the same as person B. Just a typographical error in the name. I think that should take care of it.
Okay.
And then
so
you have other. If you have other secondary evidence, you can include that as well.
Okay. Yeah, because in India, my Aadhaar card and Aadhaar card has my full name, like which is correctly exactly in my passport as well as my other names, right? So if I produce those, that will be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. But they're looking for documentation that is contemporaneous with your birth, which means as close as possible to your birth. So Aadhaar card and all that is recently, right? After you became an adult, you got all those documents.
Correct.
But what is more significant is your school leaving certificate. That is usually the standard document that they look for Indian nationals to prove date of birth. So if you have that, you can attach that as well as the affidavit with your birth certificate. That should be good enough.
Okay. Do you have any template for this affidavit, ma'am? So that, or otherwise I have to check with my attorney.
You should check with your attorney. Unless,
Sure.
you want to retain us, then we can answer your question.
Okay, I'll do that. And what is your opinion on this flush actually? Like, my date is March 25th, 2015. So that are you expecting, it's my EB3. So are you expecting to at least I get my EAD now?
Your EAD, so EB3 is right now 2013, right? Final action date. Right, so it might go to 2016. We don't know. It's all guesswork, right? But because there's 290,000 visas available this year, and they have not been used, and so all of them have to be used before October. They may open up dates for filing, and if you look at last year and you see how many visa numbers were available and how much the dates have moved, and we basically it's guesswork, and you have to see this year how many years the dates might move. So it's possible, who knows? But no one can say for sure. It might go to 2015 or 2016. That's what I've heard. But we have to wait and watch. No one can say for sure.
Yeah. Hi, Ms. Prashanti. We have one more caller, Ms. Swapna from Arizona.
Hello. Hi, Prashanti Garu.
Hi, Swapna.
Hello. Hi. Yeah. So
Yes.
my question is, my mom came to the US last year in February 2020. So since then, I have extended her stay twice. So for the first extension, we got approval, and for the second extension, we got the receipt notice till now. And she's scheduled to go in this August, actually. But can I extend her stay for the third time? Will that be okay if I show the reasons of the present condition in AP?
My suggestion is not to do that. You've already, so usually on a B2, you can only stay for 1 year with extensions. So you've already extended. If she came last February, she should have left by this February. That's already 1 year. So now it's already a year and a half. So I doubt if your second extension even will get approved because it's beyond the 1 year period, and they very rarely extend B2s beyond 1 year. So you're already in not in a very good situation. She should have ideally have left in February because you said she came last February, right? So that's 1 year. So I wouldn't advise you to extend any further.
All right, viewers, if you would like to reach out to Prashanti Garu for more questions directly, you can call her at 212-354-1010. Extension is 107, and her email address is prashanti@reddysq.com. Thank you so much, Prashanti Garu, for clarifying all the questions. Viewers, before we wind up, if you have any questions, please contact Prashanti Garu directly. So this is Swarna signing off. You're watching Telugu Prajala Manasakshi, Sakshi TV. Namaste.